Ishmor yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. Mekomo yavo v'shalom. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Keeping with our tradition, we begin with a psalm. This is the 121st psalm, known in Hebrew as Shir LaMa'alot, a song for those who ascend. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. No, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, your guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming now and forever. May Gordon Pollock go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim paulo kichol rachab mishpat el emunah ve'inav el tzadik v'yasharhu tzadik atadonai lahamidu lahachayot asher biyadcha pigadon kol ruchot chalil lecha zikronein limchot v'yihiyu nainecha v'rachamim aleinu fikuchot ki lecha adon harachamim v'haslichot. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach yehi shem Adonai mevorach. Vehu rachum yechaper avon velo yashchid vehirba lashiva po v'lior kol chamato ve'ashov he'afar al haaretz shehaya ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May our beloved soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and may Adonai, God, send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. And for those of you who are unable to be with us here at the Shaarey Zedek Cemetery, thank you for tuning into the broadcast of this service, wherever you may be joining us from. Regardless of how we come to the sacred space today, we are here today as a family, as friends, and a community to honor Gordon Pollock, the son of Sam and Sluva Pollock, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory, Gedalia ben Shlomo David v'Sluva Meta. We are here to honor him and to extend to him the greatest respect our Jewish tradition has to offer, that is, to accompany him here to his final resting place. Gordon passed away Sunday, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and the second day in the Hebrew month of Tishrei. He was 94. Abraham Joshua Heschel once said there are three ways to mourn. The first is to cry, the second is to grow silent, the third is to transform sorrow into song. I expect that today, and going forward through the week of Shiva and beyond, we will do all three, as we reflect on, as we honor, and as we celebrate the incredible long life of Gordon Pollock, what he accomplished, what he stood for. It's an honor, personally speaking, to officiate the service. I've had many connections with this extended family through weddings in the past, other life cycle events, and even just through growing up and living here in Winnipeg for most of my life. Rabah Hebrew School, Joseph Alinsky. But on top of that, my mother, her maiden name is Pollock, and my Zeta, my grandfather Harold Pollock, who passed away in 2008, was a true aficionado of family history, and specifically the Pollock family tree. Long before Avram got kind of obsessed with all of this stuff, and fancy technology made it possible, my Zeta was charting the whole extended family and telling me stories over Shabbat dinner at his home in Seven Oaks. My Zeta's father and Sam, Gordon's father, were first cousins. But the point is, my Zeta truly loved and talked endlessly about his extended Pollock family, his cousins, their histories. More than just knowing the stories, he had unique relationships with so many Pollock relatives, Gordon being among them. I'm told my Zeta actually visited Bethany on more than one occasion. The family just asked that I mention this. It is special for them and for me that I get to stand here today with all of you as we honor an incredible life and an incredible man. So thank you to the family. By way of introduction to the eulogies that will follow, I offer that it's an honor to speak about a person's life in memory of him. Gordon Pollock was authentic, and therefore very likable. The way he lived tells you everything about him. It reflected his roots, his family, his upbringing. A child of the Depression, born in 1929, he grew up on a farm. Didn't move to Winnipeg until he was a teenager. Missed his bar mitzvah, though he rectified that years later when he memorably chanted a Torah portion at Richard's bar, his grandson. His parents were immigrants from Eastern Europe. His older sister and brother were in fact both born in the old country. He came from a big family, 5 kids. He was in the middle. He had a big family. 5 kids, 5 sons, with his beloved wife Mimi. His work ethic from the farm continued on throughout his life. At the office before the sun rose, home for dinner, and then back to the office for another 4 hours, or to sit up in bed with a dictaphone running on his lap until midnight dictating notes. His career and the honor and pride that came with it, practicing law until he was 85 years old, an over 60-year legal career, one of the longest-serving lawyers in our province's history. And on top of that, an everyday guy's lawyer, a jack of all trades, a great cross-examiner who could have easily been a specialist as a litigator had he been born just a generation later. Someone who had a wicked mind for writing out property descriptions for the land titles office. An honest lawyer, and therefore, a terrible biller. Gordon's life included his Yiddishkeit, his command of the Yiddish language, his style and sense of humor. He was a great storyteller in his heyday who regularly had friends and family in stitches, and throughout his life had a great memory for all kinds of jokes, especially Jewish jokes. A man defined by his generosity, a guy who never said no, who had an open house on Lamont and an open cottage at Winnipeg Beach. And for the beach, all the schlepping he did week after week, food for 5 boys and more, bikes on the top rack back and forth, in and out every week. His sense of community, president at one time of the board of Rabah Hebrew School, 10 years on the board of the Shaarey Zedek, also serving the River Heights Community Center and the Prison Chaplain Advisory Board. A provider and a protector at heart. A sense of obligation and devotion, especially for family, his greatest love. From his siblings on the farm, especially his younger siblings, as his sister Cecile has been heard to say, to his own mother-in-law, to his immediate family and beyond. He loved his family. Gordon made trips regularly, around the world even, to see them and to be with them, to bask in the happiness those relationships brought him, even when it nearly killed him, like the trek to Masada for Liam's bar mitzvah. And his friendships, many of them decades and decades long. Gordon will certainly live on in all of these big things, in the stories you're about to hear in eulogies from his son Joey, from Samantha and Danielle, 2 of his granddaughters, and from his son Avram. He'll also be remembered for the little things, his smile, his laugh, the glint in his eye, the way he slurped everything he ate, his love of food, his recipe for meat borscht, his love of duct tape, that Depression-era mentality that you never throw anything away, and the way he could pack a trunk like nobody's business. It says in the Midrash, a commentary on Torah, some of the Jewish legends, the stories behind the stories that we're so familiar with. It says in the Midrash, some have the dignity of old age without length of days, while others have the length of days without the dignity of old age. But in the case of Abraham, the Jewish patriarch Abraham, the dignity of old age coincided with long life. And so too we can say that about Gordon Pollock. The dignity of old age coincided with long life. As his Hebrew name says, Gedaliah, made great by God. A great man, a great life. May he rest in peace. Amen. Gordon is survived by his family. Marshall and Judy, Michael and Ronnie, Maureen, Joey and Laura, Avram and Tracy. Grandchildren, Marnie and Jason, Leah and Ari, Jeremy and Stacy, Richard and Sarah, Adam and Samantha, Samantha and Ben, Danielle and Jonathan, Liam, Samuel, Benjamin, and Alyssa. Great-grandchildren, Sarah, Sammy, Sophie, Julia, Bridget, Mason, Benny, Goldie, Rhea, Max, Sydney, Max, Mia, and Aiden. By his sister Cecile and brother-in-law Monty, and sister-in-law Lynn. Gordon was predeceased by his parents Sam and Sluva, his wife Mimi, sister Myra, brothers Misha and Harvey, son Ray, and grandson Jonas, all of blessed memory. Zichronam livracha. We now call forward for the Hesped portion of our service, the eulogies, Joey, followed by Samantha and Danielle, and in conclusion, Avram.
Thank you, Matthew, and everybody for coming today, looking out. It's an honor to my dad. Sorry that so many people have showed up. Can you hear me? I'll try to be brief. As most of you know, it is a tradition and practice for Jewish people to tear one's clothing to represent their loss of a loved one. The tear representing the tear in one's heart. Today we do this by tearing a black ribbon.
Can't hear you,
Well, I am anything but a traditionalist. I can say, tearing of the ribbon or not, that there's a huge tear in my heart at the loss of our dad, Gordon Charles Pollock. Hereafter, sorry, that's the lawyer in me, referred to as Dad, who was sometimes a traditionalist and other times not. There's one unique tradition or practice Dad established, which I expect no one else in the family, perhaps other than Michael, will be following. Anyone who knew Dad knew that no matter what was broken, he believed he could fix it with his favorite tool in his toolbox, a black or silver roll of duct tape. Time does not allow me to get into the intricacies of the scientific considerations of using black versus silver duct tape. Suffice it to say that for stationary and heavy items it was usually black duct tape. For lighter portable items it was usually silver. Be it a car door, a briefcase, a coffee table, a phone, a pair of broken glasses, a broken pen, or a crack in the wing of a Boeing 747. You name it, Dad believed that with the proper roll of duct tape, he could fix anything. Unfortunately, the one thing he could not fix with duct tape was his advanced age, his failing health, and the tears in our hearts. I I could not even begin to tell you what I've been feeling and thinking about since Dad passed. The emotions, both happy and sad, come in waves. I would need a USB stick to download from my brain to paper more than 60 years of feelings, emotions, thoughts, and memories. No matter what I would tell you, it would not be enough or do justice to who Dad was. What I will say is that Dad was generous to his kids, family, friends, and clients, sometimes to a fault, and sometimes to his own detriment. He was always the go-to guy for advice. He taught me that one's word is their bond. And that parents are to be cherished, honored, and respected. He never said no to his parents, Sam and Sluva, or Bobby, who is my mother's mother, affectionately referred to by my friends Josh Morantz and Ron Rubin as Mrs. Cinnamon Bun, to who he cared for and dearly loved. He always made time for Sam, Sluva, and Bobby and ensured that they were well cared for. He was the consummate son. As he got older and became more dependent, Dad would apologize to me and tell me he felt bad that he became dependent on me to do things for him. I'd tell him that I was only doing what he taught me to do, something I considered to be an honor in my role as a son. And as long as he needed me, I'd be there. Just a few weeks ago, he made Laura and I chuckle. Before we were leaving the Shaftesbury, I asked him if there was anything he wanted, and he responded by saying, "I'd like you to be more like me." Well, Dad, I should only be so lucky as to be more like you, and I'll keep trying, minus the duct tape and the Gordon Pollock and Harvey Pollock eating method of slurping meat from a fork. It's easy for any parent to give material things to their children. Well, Dad certainly gave each of us more material things than we ever needed. That was not his true success as a father. His success as a father was teaching his children values. If I learned anything from Dad, and I learned more than I can say, he taught me about values, the most important thing that any father could teach a son. He taught me by example of how to be a good husband, father, zeta, brother, uncle, and friend. He taught me by example the importance of family and friends. He taught me by example how to be a good lawyer. He had an amazing sense of humor and passed on to me and Avram, my other brothers not so much, how to tell a good joke. As I indicated at the beginning of the eulogy, I'm not a traditionalist. I'm also not a believer. When I said goodbye to Dad after he passed on Sunday, I leaned over, kissed him in the forehead, and told him, well, I'd like to be able to say that I'd see him on the other side. That was something I did not believe in, but that I would always see him in my dreams. I know that when I do dream of him, I will not be dreaming of my 94-year-old ailing father. I will be dreaming of the tall, strapping, virile Dad with an incredibly strong hands, an infectious laugh and smile. This is the Dad that I will always dream of and remember in my mind and heart. I want to thank Laura, my partner and best friend, for her love for and dedication to Dad. Dad always considered her his daughter, and she always treated him like a father. She was always there for him and me, and I know how much he appreciated everything she did for him and Mimi over the years. Laura and I have been blessed with 3 wonderful children and their spouses. We have also been blessed with 2 beautiful grandsons, Max and Aiden, and granddaughter Mia. Dad knew Max, who he called Maxie, because Max was born before Dad's dementia began. He did not really know Aiden and Mia, but his eyes would light up and he'd get a big smile on his face whenever Samantha, Ben, Danielle, and Jonathan would take the kids to visit with him. For Dad, that was the best medicine in the world. Finally, When Dad was still able to communicate, and before I would leave him after a visit, I asked him what he needed. He'd say, "I need you." I'd smile and tell them that that was something he always had without any question. What I don't think he ever understood was that I always needed him more than he needed me. I will miss him forever and always, and I will see him and Mum in my dreams. Thank you.
Those who knew our Zedek knew he loved food. He loved bread, he loved a sandwich with borscht, he loved a good pie. There wasn't much he didn't like to eat. The night before he passed away, we were having Rosh Hashanah dinner at my parents' house. My Uncle Michael was sitting beside me, and as he was taking his second portion of kasha and meatballs, he was going on about how good the combination is of sweet and sour meatball sauce to kasha ratio. It dawned on me that food was my Zedek's love language, his way of connecting to his past, the people in his present, and the future. We were enjoying the same kasha my Baba Mimi used to make, and every time I taste it, I am transported to their house on Brock Street for a Rosh Hashanah dinner or Friday night dinner. Not only did my Zedek love eating food, he loved preparing food. Everyone who was close to my Zedek will undoubtedly remember all of the Gordon specials. Full sour pickles, fried matzah, homemade jam, hot honey mustard, beef borscht, and a nice homemade deli sandwich. Our fondest and most rich memories of him were pickling cucumbers and tomatoes out of his garden on Brock Street. They were served with every meal at my Baba and Zedek's house. We remember sleepovers at their place with fried matzah for breakfast, no matter the time of year. He loved making these things for his grandchildren. It was his way of showing us he loved us. And we could feel it through his food. All of these tastes connect us to him and bring us back to our childhoods. Our Zedek got so much joy out of his great-grandchildren. In the last few years, as he lost his independence and ability to do the things he loved, very little brought him joy, but the moment he saw Max, Mia, or Aiden, his face lit up. He would call them his dolls. They were his pride and joy, and we can and will continue to connect them to him by making his foods that made the way to our hearts.
We couldn't properly eulogize our Zedek without mentioning his two most notable talents. He was a master of duct tape and a slurper extraordinaire. He was a resourceful man, fixing things that others would throw in the trash. Broken cane, duct tape. Beautiful broken teak chairs, duct tape. Broken hammer, there's duct tape for that. His other talent, Zedek would slurp every which food. Soup, toast, salad, brisket. There may have been some taunting about this over the years, but we know he was simply enjoying every bite, and I think this was the truest and biggest compliment to the chef. My Baba Mimi, or as he would say, Meme, who spent endless hours putting elaborate Friday night dinners together to show us her love, always ending with 2 perfect pies and Bluebell ice cream. I had the pleasure of putting together a slideshow for my Zedek's 90th birthday. It was amazing to see his life in chronological order, the life he built with my beautiful, loving Baba, who we all miss dearly. He left behind a legacy of 5 sons, 12 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. How amazing. We wanted to acknowledge the devotion and love that our dad showed Zedek, especially over the past 6 years since Baba passed. It really is a testament to the values Zedek instilled. He was there every day, at any time, making sure that he was always comfortable, taken care of, and had everything he needed. He put my Zeta first every day, and we know Zeta appreciated it and loved his Joey so very much. Zeta, we will remember you for many things and keep those memories close. Trips in Palm Springs, picking oranges and making freshly squeezed juice, endless games of Rummy Cube, duct tape, tennis balls hanging in the garage, high-waisted pants, and of course, fried matzah and pickles. We love you.
Everybody get a chair now. What time is sunset? I just wanted to go off script for 1 second because when I came here, certain memories flashed back at me. So when I was getting prepared to come here and I was brushing my teeth, I looked down at the sink and I thought to myself, am I going to wipe the sink out with a Kleenex like Dad did in every single hotel room that he went to when he shaved? He always believed that you left a place better than you found it. If you borrowed somebody's car, you gave it back with a full tank of gas. I just wanted to acknowledge that I was not here for Uncle Harvey's funeral, and so I want to acknowledge our love for him. He's beside me right now. Also, another tradition which I'm not sure that you know of or might have witnessed, but Dad's relationship with his siblings. He especially had a very close relationship with Uncle Harvey, and I did today what I witnessed Dad do almost 40 years ago when Nate passed, and he saw Uncle Harvey for the first time, and he gave him a hug, and he bit him on the earlobe, and that was his way of showing you that he loved you. He'd give you a bear hug, and he'd bite you on the earlobe. So I just gave Joey Katz a bite on the earlobe, because that's how we roll. And lastly, I just want to say that I know you're not supposed to thank people to come to a funeral, but this is an unbelievable turnout. I see faces from the past, all my cousins, and Patty, who's been in their life her whole life, my oldest cousin that I've ever known and was in their wedding party. Yale Schaefer, who was a family friend who took care of my dad's business for years. And it's amazing when I come here and I see the multi-generational connections with Yale's Baba and Zeta Yechiel and Tilly and my Baba, and his and Gladys and Mom's friendship, his friendship with Ray, and the boys' friendships with each other. Okay, so now I'm starting. So for what is a father if not to be a teacher? And these are a couple of quotes that I found that I thought were particularly beautiful. A father is someone you look up to no matter how tall you grow. A father is the man who can change a world he will not be part of by building the tiny human that is part of him. Every father should remember one day his son will follow his example, not his advice. And as Matt had said, Dad passed away on the second day of Rosh Hashanah at the age of 94.5. And if you're into numerology at all, if you add up those 3 digits, it comes to 18, which means chai. And I would have to say, that's a pretty good chai. It's a pretty good long life. I wanted to just share a couple of testimonials unsolicited that I got through people through either Facebook or text about what Dad meant to them. This is from Mark Wire, a close family friend. Said, "So sorry to hear about your dad. I'll always remember him as Uncle Gordy. He was a great man who positively impacted countless people fortunate enough to know him. I've kept in touch with Joey, so I know your dad had a tough go. Bev and I send our deepest condolences to the entire family." From cousin Tamara Gooner in Vancouver. "Dear Avram, we were all very sad to hear about your dad's passing. I had a good cry last night, and again now remembering your mom and dad coming to meet us in Italy in 1977. Your dad's face, kind and almost always, and a smile on your mom's most elegant hands. I speak for all the Gooners to say how grateful we were to have your dad and the rest of the family take care of us when we came to Canada." true kindness comes with no strings attached. And that's what he showed us. You may not know or remember this, but in 1980 I was having a bit of a hard time and decided to quit my job in Winnipeg, drop out of school, and run away to the U.S. First I went to see my parents in Ohio, then some Russian cousins in New York, and then I ended up in California staying with your parents in Palm Springs. What wonderful memories I have thinking about your dad. I don't know what you're feeling today, but you must know how proud your dad must have been of you. And in case you don't know, we are also very proud of you. It's a privilege to have you as our family. Love, Tamara. And then Chris Katz from Toronto. We were sorry to hear about the passing of your dear father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Auntie Mimi and Uncle Gordon were always very special to Richard and I. In turn, they were always very special to me, Adam, Aaron, and Joel. I will always remember their kindness and love towards me, even in the beginning of Richard and my relationship, probably because of their love and respect for Richard. I loved both of them as if they were my own aunt and uncle. And from Malka in Vancouver, just wanted to send my condolences on your dad passing away. He was a very special guy and treated me with such kindness and love, always. He showed me what family is all about, and I have always been grateful for this. Oscar has held him in high regard, and our whole family felt a part of his wonderful family. He will forever hold a special place in our hearts. From Danny Globerman, I'm so sorry I have to hear about your dad. He always had a smile for me and a twinkle in his eye for Diane. You were such a good son to him. He was a lucky man. And I have to say that Diane was extremely good to my dad and was very concerned about his mental health. From Adam Globerman, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad. Wonderful man. We'll never forget his loving smile. All my love to you and your family. And so Dad went by many names. He was Gedalia, Zenu, that's what Zeta called him in Yiddish, Gordon, Gordy, Gordon Charles, GCP, Giuseppe, Daddy, Zeta Dordan, Timus, a name he was called by his late friend Larry Brooker, and the way in which I referred to him from my teenage years until recently, and the Reuter Kutter, which is what Leo Shaarey used to call him, which is directly translated is a red cat. I'm not sure where that came from. And Mr. Pollock by thousands of clients over the years. Dad was the middle of 5 children born to Shlom and Sluva, and from Uman and Ternivka. Baba was from Uman, and Zeta was from Ivangorod. He was the first in the family to be born in Canada, Myra and Misha in Ukraine before him, and Harvey and Seal after him in Winnipeg. He attended a one-room school in Bethany, Manitoba, like Little House on the Prairie, where Zeta was a cattle buyer and Baba ran the country store. As a young teenager, Dad was driving and repairing farm equipment, smoking, loading 1,000-pound bulls onto trucks to be sent to market. When the kids needed further high school education, Baba took the kids and moved to Winnipeg, and Zeta commuted between the country and the north end of Winnipeg. Although it was only a one-room schoolhouse, Dad had said he was on par or advanced in school skills when he arrived in Winnipeg. No? As the story goes, as their house was in the wrong part of the city to attend St. John's Tech, a predominantly Jewish school at that time, Zeta had arranged with cousin Itzi, Irvin Pollock, to use his address in order to allow Dad to attend school there. He met Mom. They were married in 1950, the year of the big flood, and went on to have 5 boys, whom Dad fed at great expense. Our house was known as the Pollock Hilton and always had uncles, cousins, or family friends staying with us, either in Winnipeg or at Bobby's little cottage in Winnipeg Beach. I don't believe our father had a prejudice bone in his body, although it was before my time in the early 50s. Mom and Dad had a German nanny named Gisela, who took care of my older brothers. It always amazed me that only 5 years after the Second World War, that he would open his home to this young woman, but he did not hold children responsible for the transgressions of their parents. Dad had all clients of all kinds of walks of life, all races and religions, many of whom were welcome to our house on evenings and weekends to sign documents, etc., as they were working people who could not get off to work during the day. He also took me with him to the hospital as a teenager to witness his assessment of clients with dementia whose families would coerce him to change the will to favor certain members, a suggestion that never came to fruition. Dad was principled and straight as an arrow and was known for years for undercharging for his services. He was not a shul goer or a religious man, and what belief he did have was lost when Ray passed at age 52 in 2008. He also seemed to have lost his desire to whistle, a sweet sound that always preceded him wherever he walked. After having his first heart attack at age 47-48, we all became very protective of him, not allowing him to carry heavy things or overexert himself, and yet, with pacemaker and all, he outlived almost everyone. Dad taught me a lot over the years, but most recently he taught me about patience. And for those of you who know me well, it's a virtue that does not come easily to this former redhead. I learned about honoring my elders, kavod et imecha ve'avicha, and as he used the term not exactly correctly, he would say decheretz, when he meant derech eretz, which means respect. Dad had the most respect and patience with his parents and for mom Bobby Chana. As Chana was widowed at the age of 60, my dad and my late Uncle Zen Kat saw to it that she wanted for nothing. After almost 67 years of marriage to his high school sweetheart, and with Mom Mimi passing in January 2007, we spoke daily around dinner time, rain or shine, from anywhere in the world. Initially, it was to check in and to make sure he was coping well. Within the year, he found a great companion in the late Molly Nasberg, and our conversations were more like me being the dad and checking on how his dinner date was. After Molly's passing at age 100, he was again alone and did crave companionship. He still remained in contact with her lifelong friends, Peril and Jerry, Zichrono Livracha, and Saucy Plattner, Evie Wenner, and Janie Schneer. He had the unenviable status of outliving all of his lifelong male friends, and most recently Jerry Dane. As life would have it, when Joey was searching for Dad's directive or living will, it of course was witnessed by Peril and Jerry, one of, I'm sure, 100 of documents that they witnessed for him. He remained sharp and loved to go out for meals, play bridge, do puzzles, and play Rummy Cube, and was an avid follower of politics and current events. We would even talk about my medical legal cases well into his early 90s. As Dad gradually became more infirm, I became more and more patient, not less and less. We continued our daily calls that became more and more rote and simple, but I loved to hear his voice. Until the 6 to 12 months, he was still able to call me on his iPad using FaceTime. His greeting was always the same. Avremel, I will miss hearing that greeting. And he always knew it was me on the phone. Had he not picked up his iPad, my greeting to him was, "Hi, Tim." All of us boys have the same voice and are very similar on the phone, but he'd immediately know it was me. In fact, when we all lived on Lamont and he answered the phone and the caller would ask, "Is your mother there?" his reply would be, "No, she lives on Matheson Avenue in the North End." I've missed that intimacy, and I will miss our calls, and it will take me a very long time not to reach for my phone to call him before dinner. Dad loved all of his kids, their spouses, their kids, and grandkids. He was not always demonstrative of that love verbally. He showed it with food and drink, but was not of a generation who said, "I love you." I ended every phone call with him saying, "I love you," but he never verbalized it in return. And yet I never for a minute doubted his love, and I knew there was nothing I could not ask for, although I was not one to ask. He was extremely proud to have his late brother Harvey, 2 sons, Marshall and Joey, and 3 grandsons, Richard, Adam, and Liam, follow in his footsteps in the practice of law. He came from a generation of medical school quotas for Jews of 2 per year, and it was the worst after World War II when returning veterans and the GI Bill bumped them to the top of the list. It was also the generation where parents spoke, my Zayd and Baba, and children listened. Girls, Auntie Myra, were not permitted to go to university. Misha had a BSc and was offered a job in Toronto and was told that would not be happening. Dad had been accepted to optometry school in Chicago and was told the same. So whilst the law may not have been his first choice, he became a superb lawyer in the days where lawyers were instructed to their utmost to keep couples married who were seeking a divorce. Given the presence of capital punishment at that time in Canada, lawyers also had to attend hangings in person if they were to advocate for such a sentence. My, how times have changed. What many people may not have witnessed after his health scare in early life was his brilliant sense of humor, like Robert Klein telling Yiddish jokes, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this clip, but he talks about being a kid and sitting in the room with all the Yiddish speakers, and his grandfather would say, "Gehakta, hakta, hakta," and then everybody would laugh. So that's exactly what I heard growing up. Dad would be saying, "Gehakta, hakta, hakta," and then everybody would laugh after him. There are a couple of sayings that he said that stick with me, and one of his favorite jokes and sayings was, in Yiddish, and I'll translate, he would talk about an attractive woman who was well endowed, and he'd say in Yiddish, "Sie schläft auf zwei Kischen and schläft auf ihr," which means it's a double entendre, because auf vier means on four, and auf ihr also means upon her. So the saying was, she sleeps on two cushions and he sleeps on four, or on her. He also loved to say, rich or poor, it's nice to have money. One father can support 5 sons, but 5 sons can't support one father. You know it's Father's Day and you didn't get me a gift. You know your mother and I were never married, so you know what that makes you, and damn cheap ones. 2 can live cheaper than 1 as long as 1 doesn't eat. He's a nar, but he's my nar. And when he gave advice on relationships, you don't have to sleep with her, talking about spouses, etc. And he would say, don't poop where you eat, which I think is very good advice. Dad, I love you more than words can say, and thank you for instilling in me a moral code and standards, the ability to see right from wrong, and a love of family and family history. I also seem to have inherited your sense of humor, which I hope to continue to use to bring a little light into a sometimes very dark world. For those of you who would like to hear the last joke that I told him that brought tears of laughter to his eyes, come see me personally and bring a tube of Ozanol. I cannot tell that in public. May your sweet neshama have an aliyah. I hope that yours and Mom's neshamot are reunited. Yehi zichro baruch. Avrei malach. Thanks.
Thank you to Avram, to Samantha and Danielle, and to Joey. Beautiful eulogies, heartfelt words of tribute. Thank you for sharing those words with all of us. We will now chant the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional Jewish memorial prayer in honor of Gordon Pollock. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bameromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim, Yezohar Arakia Mazirim, and Nishmat Gedalia ben Shlomo David Vesluva Meta Shalach Leolamo Megan Dente Menuchato Anabal Harachamim Hastireu Veseter Kenafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzror Achaim Enishmato Adonai Nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Gordon Pollock, who is gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us together say, Amen. In a moment, we will recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, and then we have the opportunity to conclude our service led by the family with the participation in the ritual of shoveling earth into the grave. A word on that in a moment. After the conclusion of the service, there will be a meal of consolation at Temple Shalom, 1077 Grant Avenue. And the family will be sitting Shiva and accepting visitors at 412 Bauer Boulevard, that is Joey and Laura's home, this evening from 7 to 9 with prayers at 7:30. Thursday, tomorrow in the afternoon, 2 to 4, and then again 7 to 9, and tomorrow prayers at 7:30 as well, and Friday afternoon as well, 2 to 4. So again, tonight 7 to 9, tomorrow 2 to 4, 7 to 9, and Friday 2 to 4 at 412 Bauer. When it comes to shoveling earth into the grave, there are different customs that you'll see in different Jewish cemeteries around the world. Most people will pour 3 shovelfuls of earth. Some people will use the front of the shovel, while others will use the back of the shovel, as if reluctant to participate in this ritual. Some people will return the shovel when they're done to the earth, others will pass it to the next person. The ritual with which you are familiar, the ritual that resonates with you, is one you should embrace to enhance the meaning behind this. Because the idea behind shoveling earth into the grave is that it taps into that idea from the opening remarks that we made. The ultimate form of respect in Jewish tradition is to accompany a loved one to his final resting place. We believe in Jewish tradition our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands. Kind, knowing hands, hands that once held their hands. So the family will lead us, and then everyone is invited to participate. It is a painful act, but we remind ourselves, a mitzvah, a righteous act, a selfless act we do without any hope of reward or anything in return, to express our love to someone who clearly meant so much to so many people. To echo what Avram said, in my experiences, the older people get, the smaller their funerals, actually, because they don't have many contemporaries left. For so many people to attend to the cemetery and surely to tune in as well speaks to the impact and the multi-generational impact of Gordon Pollock in this community and with roots all over North America, maybe even beyond. That is a testament to his character, as today's entire service has been as well. And so together, we can participate in shoveling earth into the grave. For now, we say, in conclusion, words that we offered at the beginning of the service from the book of Job, the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. God gives, God takes, and through it all we bless God's name. But we are also here today and going forward to say, may Gordon Pollock and his memory be for a blessing, as we mark that his essence will never leave the hearts and souls that he did touch. The Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabah, be'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabah mevorach le'alam u'amei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity, as again together we say, Amen. A word quickly just on the Kaddish as I think of it going forward for Shiva. We say during this period of time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, an extra word when we recite the Kaddish, we say Le'ela U'Le'ela, which actually is quite fitting because it talks about raising up higher and higher. Something for the days of awe, but also apropos. To the family, we say, Hamakom yinechem etchem b'toch Shaarey ve'elei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled. May God comfort and console you among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning in our community. And one more note for anyone who wants to participate but may seem daunted by the large shovels. In front of me right here, there's a bucket with a small shovel and sand so you can participate and perform the mitzvah as well. But first, we will invite the family to lead us. And thank you again to everyone for being here.